I feel like we should know this by now.
And that is?
But not all of them can be winners.
No, they can't.
No.
And we've had a few that weren't.
Yeah.
And
now we've had another.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious for our listeners. Like, do they look forward to the episodes where we just mean mug and, tear apart these movies?
I love it. I don't know. And, we're not intentionally mean about stuff normally.
Not typically.
And sometimes we've had like ones that didn't cross over the bar.
Sure.
Right. They fell short on the high jump. And we treat them with respect.
Yeah.
It's like, there was just some things that didn't, but occasionally we get a bonus.
Well, you know what? Listen, we love movies and we love the art of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we try to be very positive most of the time.
We do.
I think we try to be positive all the time, but also, we're honest about how we feel about things.
Yes. But then also there are those rare gems.
Yep.
That really deserve what they get.
That's true.
There's a degree of sheer laziness, ineptitude, everything, especially something like, a B movie that, had a decent budget to move things along, and they blew every single chance.
But I think it is just as important to learn what not to do as to learn what to do.
Well, that's our thing. Every movie has a lesson.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
For better or worse. And this week's journey.
Well, it was for worse. It was for worse.
It was for worse. And it was a long, long roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And well, actually, to me, that's a poor analogy. It was a roller coaster ride, but it was like the kiddie coaster.
Yeah.
It was just a long straight haul, not even a circle. Just like, oh.
That's not fair. It was not without its merit. Just the one merit.
Well, there's a couple, but it's the primary one that we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could go on and on, but this is an intro. So why don't we dive into the meat of this latest tasty find?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do like a magical 90s fade into it. Are you ready?
I'll let you. I don't know what you're doing, so go for it. How's that?
Good. Let's go.
Let's go. Hey B-Siders, welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim, and it's not going to work.
And this is It's Not Going to Work, Danny.
Is that your new trope?
No.
Okay. Just got foiled again, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well. We got a movie this week.
Yes.
That, so we saw it. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. That we had to watch it.
I was
for a few reasons.
I was brilliantly excited by this movie.
As was I.
Yeah.
As was I. And we'll roll with that. This week, this episode, I'm riding a fine line with my voice.
Yeah, you spent the last 2 days yelling at people.
Yes, over the phone. 4, as is verified, by my phone usage, slightly over 16 hours total.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, for those 2 days.
Oh, boy.
So here's a little PSA, folks, a little public service announcement, a little consumer advice. when you take your laptop in to get the battery replaced and they completely break your laptop, don't let them try to back out of it.
Right?
That's all I'm going to say, because I'm not spending any more time on this shit.
Yeah.
None. But it took me 2 days, over 16 hours of constantly yelling up and down the chain, doing all kinds of stuff to make it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was made right.
Yes.
And boy, they fought hard. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing about me, folks, you should know by now is I'm like a starving Rottweiler. And when you give me a big, juicy, bloody piece of meat, like fucking me over, I latch onto that shit until death.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of us is going down. I don't give up. So.
Oh, I know. You'd be on the phone with him this whole week if, it still wasn't.
Until satisfaction was achieved.
Yes,
absolutely.
I know.
But we did. It's all worked out. Danny's getting a new laptop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have missed my baby.
Well, and it's an upgrade because the one you have is 3 years old. We've had it for 3 years, and they don't make it anymore. And that's the thing. There was nothing wrong with it. Other than the battery, this thing, and she's using, we've talked about this before, our emergency backup laptop.
Yeah, the zombie.
Yeah, the zombie machine is 9 years old. It's a MacBook Pro that's 9 years old, and it's still kicking ass.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's slightly slower than what you had.
Yeah.
Right? The trackpad is
little.
Is teeny compared to, the ones today. And it's a little thicker and stuff, and the resolution's not quite the same. But as far as using it for work,
it's worked just fine.
Yeah, so yeah, we had one of our rectangular children taken away from us too soon.
Yeah.
But in its place comes
a new rectangular,
a newer one. So it's a 2019 model, which is what we're recording on. I mean, this is my monster.
Yeah.
Right. Almost as beefy. But, we're not going to push for things we don't need.
No.
So I've got all the oomph to do all this stuff. You got oomph to do other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. So, that nightmare aside, excuse me, has cost me some voice levels here. So we were actually going to record last night, but I was like, no.
Okay. I can't talk.
I don't feel my voice is up to it. So we're doing it tonight.
Yes.
All right.
I would like to tell you about this movie.
Do you want to take us into this? Do we want to say why we wanted to watch this movie first? Without giving it's not giving anything away.
I can tell you the deciding factor for me.
Okay.
Baby Seth Green.
Yes. Well, that was for both of us. We were looking at it and we're like, I'm not going to mention any other names because you're going to list them in just a second. But we're like, oh, that one. Oh, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, that one. That's legendary.
Oh, awesome.
And then all of a sudden we watched the trailer and Seth's name didn't make it in the title list on Tubi.
Right.
They've only got so much room.
Yeah.
So we're watching it and we're like, oh, wait a minute. Pause.
Baby Seth Green.
That's baby Seth Green. Well before he was Oz on Buffy and then everything else that followed.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
We're like, we're in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that was the chief reason, and all the other names were like the secondary, right?
Yes.
So why don't you tell us what we're in for tonight, and then we're going to dive into this bad boy.
So the movie we're watching is called Arcade. It was made in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Albert Pyun. Written by Charles Band and David S. Goyer. So story by Charles Band, screenplay by David S. Goyer.
Mm-hmm.
Starring Megan Ward, Peter Billingsley, John Delancey, and oh my gosh, so many more.
Yeah. Well, don't forget Seth Green.
Seth Green.
Because he did show up rather soon on the credits.
Yes.
As it started coming up.
Yeah. Don Stark is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Love him. Sharon Farrell.
And if folks, if you're wondering about the name John Delancey, he's Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes.
Everybody loves John Delancey. And he's done obviously tons more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
We didn't get the budget, and the log line. Oh, also it is rated R.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why. Just general swearing and stuff, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, for 1993, it was still pretty passive. Maybe the whole,
Right?
mom blowing her brains out.
Oh, possibly.
I mean, it wasn't like super duper graphic, but maybe just the action itself was considered something that one more tick in the R-rated box.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Here's the log line.
Okay.
It's real short and sweet.
Yes, it is.
A virtual reality game begins taking over the minds of teenagers.
Yep.
Not accurate.
Nope, that's not even what it's about.
Nope.
Because if you watch the trailer, it says something completely different.
Yeah.
And the movie's, completely different. All right. Well, should I dive into this?
Yes.
So we open with a young girl talking about heaven and hell. So it's a voiceover, right? And how her mother sent her to hell. She knows hell is real because her mother sent her there. We see her walk in on her mother, who at this point has already shot herself in the head because there's, all over the wall behind her and her head's bloody and she's sitting slouched in a chair. Not hard to figure out. Then we cut to a shot with a psychiatrist, and we learn that this young woman's name is Alex. This whole thing it goes on for a couple minutes. It's the standard ineffectual visit with a shrink kind of thing.
Right.
Right. Where, and I just want to say, so here's like a mini lesson. When you introduce characters of a certain profession, do your best to make them like real, unless it's a comedy. Because one thing I can't stand about the psychiatrist trope in all these movies is they are all so stupid and they just get like walked over, and it's maddening. It's maddening. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder she's not wanting to talk to you. Because if a patient walks in and says, you're full of shit and this isn't going to work anymore and I don't know why we're doing this. Well, the psychiatrist is going to, especially if there's like something seriously wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, this woman was not very helpful at all.
No. Her pants of professionalism, the girth of them was thimble-like, right? When in real life, it would be like strapping a cement truck, on your hips.
Right.
This is what I'm going to do as a professional to not stand for this nonsense, and also not talk like I've been a freshly beaten 3-week-old puppy.
You just put a whole lot of very interesting visuals in my head.
Think it over.
I'm not sure what to do with them.
So after this, Alex has a small group of friends, and among them is Seth Green, a very young one. We got to just keep reiterating that. I mean, seriously, he just looks like a week ago he was still getting his diaper checked.
I know.
He's just so young. And then she has another friend, Greg, who goes into this whole long bit of railing against shrinks. He seems to be her boyfriend.
Right.
Right. And I wrote this specifically because this was awesome. So Greg, I don't know where it comes from, whips out an old Polaroid, full size Polaroid where you pop it open and you have to pull the bellows out.
Uh-huh.
Right. And by this time they had the little handheld ones.
They sure did. In 93.
He pulls this giant fucking 80s Polaroid out and they take a selfie with it. I don't know what else to say.
Well, it's really weird because he messes with it and the photo turns out weird. And I noted this. I was like, surely this will be something important later.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And turns out, nope.
No.
It isn't.
No, other than the picture itself shows up later.
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of a breadcrumb. So after this whole thing, the gang ends up going to Dante's Inferno,
An arcade.
An arcade, which we talked about this. How many times has the name Dante's Inferno showed up in cinema as the arcade of choice for whatever's going on?
Oh, like many times.
Dozens and dozens and dozens.
But here's the thing. They're going to an arcade called Dante's Inferno.
Right.
To play an arcade game called Arcade.
Yeah, there's some chat before they go about hey, you hear about that new game that's going to be released, and they're having a preview, and that's where we're going, and all this, which is irrelevant because they just go to the arcade and there's the game.
Right.
We could have done without the whole preview thing. So yeah, the game's name is Arcade, not even like ARKADE, right?
No, it's just like the regular word.
Yeah, just arcade. And this thing is supposed to be virtual reality. The game place, the Dante's Inferno, is in the basement of this old deserted building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go in there, and we right away, this is so 80s into the 90s, because they're teenagers, whatnot, right? Of course, there's some adversarial things.
Oh yeah, there's the 90s bully.
Yeah, the smack talk, and I'm going to stand up to you. Little Seth Green's like, oh yeah, I'm not taking it, and then everyone's like, he's going to dust your ass, and they pull him away, and this whole thing, and then the owner kicks Bully Boy out.
Well, it's hilarious because the bully's whole thing is like, arcades are for wimps. Look at the dumb games they have, and I'm like, dude,
why are you here?
You're in an arcade. You're in the wrong place, man.
There's been better.
Uh-huh.
There has been better. Do you want to roll from here?
Yeah. So as they're talking, and like shitting on games, from the hallway, you hear like a robotic voice say, "Come and say that to my face." And they're all like creeped out. And then this guy in a business suit is like, "Creepy, huh? Do you want to come and see it?" And
I call him Arcade Guy.
Oh.
Because we don't get his name till so much later on. The name I gave him stuck.
I try to avoid using the word arcade as much as possible, because otherwise my notes would have just been arcade, 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 yeah. Arcade, arcade.
My mistake. Game Guy.
Okay.
Not Arcade Guy. Game Guy.
I just call him Business Guy.
Who, if you need a face, folks, it's John Delancey's character.
Yeah. He's the suit. So he invites Alex, who is our main girl, to try it. And she's like, no. And then one of their friends, who is Ralphie from A Christmas Story.
Yeah. Peter Billingsley.
Yeah.
In this, his name is Nick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'll get to that in a second. But the business guy tells him that the game learns as you play it and like goes through this stuff that doesn't actually sound very interesting. And so this kid is going to test it out. And as he gets in, he's like, oh, how come there's an escape button? He has to put on these like gloves, and it's not even goggles. It's like a periscope that he looks in.
Yeah. So this is a booth game. Yes. And we all know them from like the driving games when they went from standing up to sitting in the little booth and stuff, and Star Wars, Star Trek, and all these things followed suit. So you're in this booth, and yeah, for VR, you put these weird gloves on that were way more gadgeted up.
Yeah.
Than needed to be, even for 93. And you
have a joystick.
And you have a joystick. Yeah. And then you lean forward. This thing doesn't move. It's not like you pull it over.
You lean forward.
So you lean into it, and it is. It looks like a giant eyepiece of a submarine periscope.
Yeah. Not a super impressive looking booth game, but there's an escape button on the joystick, and the kids ask the guy about it, and he's like, that's in case the game gets too intense.
Yeah.
And the kids are like, ah, ha, 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 so funny. So then the blonde kid, Ralphie, who identifies himself to the game because like the graphics come up and it's like, what's your name? And I initially thought he said Dick. So like, you know how kids in arcades like do fake names and stuff?
Oh, high score ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the 3-letter abbreviations for the profanities you could squeeze in on the high scores. That was the mark of stardom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of what I thought he was going for until I realized his name is Nick. And I was like, oh, So he's going through a hallway in the game, and it actually looks really easy, right? He's just like on a skateboard going down a hallway, and there's occasionally screws and stuff coming out of the walls.
It looks like the old lawn darts.
The hilarious thing, though, yeah, they're not threatening at all.
No.
But the hilarious thing is, like, he puts his face into the periscope, and then it's like he's waking up inside the game.
Right. We don't see it from a first-person perspective. We see what he looks like in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually go back and forth from first person to him in the game.
Yeah.
Which I've got so much to say about that at the end of this.
But while he's not really exerting himself, and this game doesn't actually look very hard, his real life body is like sweating and shaking.
He looks like he's trying to pass a watermelon.
Yeah.
Via his kidneys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like trembling. And here's the thing, folks. If you only catch a glimpse of this guy and you're like, Jesus, is that really Ralphie from A Christmas Story? Peter Billingsley, his face, he got older, so his face changed. His lips and his whole mouth movements, it's like somebody cut those out of A Christmas Story and plastered them on this. They're exactly the same. And there's one point where he licks his lips. I'm like, oh my God, that's just exactly what he did when he was doing the super secret ring decoder or decoder ring message.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird.
Yes. A little bit.
Dude, it's just like when you were a kid. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, for me, it was like his icy blue eyes. Like, I never figured Ralphie's icy blue eyes. And
yeah.
Anyway.
Ralphie.
So then he gets out and he's like, you guys have to try it. So Greg tries it. And then the business guy says, oh, guys, come with me to get some home versions of the game to try for free.
Right.
And they leave Greg in there alone. And then we see him and he's like screaming while playing the game. And Alex goes to check on him and he's gone. And she finds the Polaroid in the console. That's the beginning and ending of that interesting Polaroid picture that seemed so significant.
Yep. And why that was there, who knows?
Right? Everything else was gone.
Yeah.
So they don't even really look for him in the arcade. It's like, oh, have you seen Greg? No. Have you seen Greg? No. They're not even asking other people. They're not even looking around. So they're like, all right, let's just leave. And then he doesn't come out. So they take his car and leave, which is wild to me.
I thought, well, so here's the thing. Earlier, when they went to the arcade, we followed them across the beach as they were walking.
Yeah.
And I know, folks, I need to apologize.
It was like they walked there.
Yeah. They absolutely did walk there.
Yeah.
I wanted to grab some of the music from this and just play a couple little samples of the kind of music these movies had. These be-real movies. It's actually kind of cool. Because, the only people they could afford to pay for music were like the guys who were actually playing the local bars, like in Santa Monica and stuff, and would be happy to be given $1,000 so they could have their music used in the movie.
Yeah, I actually liked the music of this movie.
Well, here's the thing. I have been introduced to a lot of music that way.
Yeah.
B-movies and indie films will give you shit that you will never find on the radio and open up to stuff you may not otherwise find because there's so much of it. We've talked about that, and it's like surfing YouTube, for random stuff. So, but we have found so much music on TV shows, right? And they only play for like a little bit in the background because the trend was first pop music, top 40, top 5, right? Then they started just getting stuff that sounded good, that they liked, and we were introduced to a lot of non-mainstream music that again we just wouldn't have found because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
But anyway. Back to the car thing, they fucking walked there.
Yeah.
And now they're, of course, driving away in a 1979 Camaro, I think.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they steal his car, and then Alex gets home with her arcade demo. And she gets in, and like her dad's asleep on the couch. And here's the hilarious thing. All this stuff is supposed to be really meaningful, but I'm like, I don't think it matters. The point is like her dad's terrible, I guess. And
no, he's busted. He's completely shattered because of her mother's suicide.
Right. Anyway, she asked if Greg called, and he's like, no. So she covers him up on the couch. And then upstairs, she sets up her home, arcade game.
Yeah.
And as soon as she plugs it in, it's like, hi, Alex.
Right.
And then it tells her that Greg lost the game and it won his soul. And then she screams, even though the game hasn't really done anything except like talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes the headset off and it continues to antagonize her. So here's what happens. She calls Greg's house. And so she's making these phone calls while the game is just like yelling at her from the TV.
And yeah. Now, so,
and like shouting profanities.
Right. I was going to say, so I made a note earlier that this is like the precursor to AI. That wasn't even a concept back then.
Right.
Right. For games. So they did mention it's, the game thinks for itself. It's like our artificial brain.
Right.
Close. So anyway, even with that in mind, if I plug something in to a television, and let's be fair, folks, they're plugging into tube TVs because that's how consoles work.
Uh-huh. I think that's hilarious because they have the goggles on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why bother plugging it into a TV? I don't get it.
There's so much involved. I don't get it. But anyway.
It's very confusing.
Long and short of this is, if something on the television was yelling at me by name and calling me names, we're done.
And was like, I killed your friend, you bee.
Yeah. Greg's all alone, you bitch.
Right.
What?
So yeah, Greg isn't at his house. Then she calls Nick. And this whole time the game is like still antagonizing her. And she tries to unplug the cord and it won't come out of the wall. And eventually she gets it, but it's like it's holding itself in the wall. It's very weird. And here's the thing. This stuff isn't even like, oh, it's probably just me being paranoid kind of weird.
Right.
It's literally telling her that it took Greg and that it will kill her.
Yep.
And addresses her by her name and calls her obscenities.
Yep.
Oh boy.
So a couple things there. The power plug being magically stuck to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember that, folks. I want to get into it right now. I just want to skip the rest of this film and get into my major bitches with this. But we're not going to. We're going to tough it out. We're going to tough it out.
Listen, spoilers for this episode, not for the movie, but for this episode.
Okay.
There is a point at which both of us were like, I'm not taking notes anymore. I can't do this.
Oh, yeah. The last, almost third.
Yeah.
A little bit less than a third of the movie to go.
Yeah.
We're like, I just can't. I'm just going to sit back and just fucking go for the ride. I'm done. I can't take notes anymore.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that, folks. Don't jump to conclusions. She leaves her house to go see Nick.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she gets to Nick's. He's plugged into the game.
Having fun.
Yeah, now, they still do this. And I know it's the whole suspension of disbelief, right? But this is why I hate movies with kids as a general rule. I hate movies with teenagers as a general rule. Because the parents become absolutely fucking retarded or non-existent. Right? These are not like hard life kids. Right?
No, they're just like normal kids.
They're not living with crack addicts and, troubled teen years kind of stuff. They're living in very nice, respectable homes, and it makes you seem like their parents have their shit together, except for Alex's, who's drinking himself to death because his wife's died and he can't figure out it's important to take care of his daughter. Anyway, all these people in and out at fucking all hours of the morning, climbing in and out of windows and shit, and there's nobody to be seen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she climbs in, sneaks up on him, hits his panic button, and he just starts going on about how the game is brilliant. And we get a whole conversation about Alex thinking the game is alive, and then Nick is just pissing on the thought outright.
Yes.
It's just a game. That's how it's built, kind of argument.
Here's the hilarious thing, though. She keeps telling him to turn it off because she wants to talk to him. And when she called him, he was like, "Oh, are you getting to this bit?"
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, he turns the monitor off. As she's saying, turn the game off. He turns off the monitor. Now, curiously enough, I said monitor. He doesn't have his console plugged into his television. It's plugged into his computer monitor, which didn't make any sense to me. And we get all kinds of stuff going on. So the whole conversation about it's alive and it's not. And then Alex takes a tangent and goes on about her issues, which I love because like at the drop of a hat, in the middle of a conversation, this Alex just starts fucking talking about, well, if a girl whose mother committed suicide and father's drinking himself to death can figure this out, then I would think, like, nobody asked you, and I'm not even sure that's the topic of the conversation right now.
Golly, I missed that bit. Here's the part that was funny to me. When she called him earlier and was like, I want to come over and talk, it was because she didn't want to say anything in front of the game that was on at her house.
Right.
And then she gets there and he's playing the game and she just starts talking to him and the game's like on right there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, bud, I don't want to talk right now. There's a cop right over there.
Well, and then it turns the monitor back on at one point.
Yeah.
And Nick is just like, oh, it's just a faulty something.
Yeah.
That it wasn't.
I don't want to talk right now because there's a cop to our left. Let's just walk over to that other cop and talk in front of him.
Or better yet,
it's so dumb.
I don't want to talk in front of the cop. Come here. And then you walk behind the cop and start talking.
Right.
Jesus Christ. Can't make this shit up.
Sorry, I threw you.
No, there's a lesson here.
Is there?
Yeah, because I wrote it in parentheses and in capital letters, lesson.
Okay.
And I got to say this because I can't wait till the end for this. I knew I couldn't, which is why I wrote it in.
Sure.
So at this point, I just want to say, if you're going to make a movie about people in a game, do not put characters into a game when the entirety of the game is supposed to be first-person perspective.
Sure.
It is ridiculous. It was done horribly. It's always been done horribly. And I just want to say, stop. Don't do it. Because it makes you look just like the worst filmmaker.
Yeah.
Little hint of what's coming ahead. At this point, it was super clear. Nobody understood anything about the premise of this film.
Nope.
The writers had no clue. And we'll cover that.
Yeah, they didn't know
later.
what games are, I think.
Right. So she leaves Nick, and then he tries to turn the computer monitor off again, and it won't. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's, you know what? It's like, oh, computers going to take over the world. Let me tell you what, Skynet, you could put in a tin can and be done with that shit long before Terminator. I mean, there is nothing that can reach out 1,000 years from now, whatever physical device you're using can't reach out and telekinetically operate your home, and telepathically read your mind.
Listen, we talked about psychokinetics last week.
Yeah, shit. Now it's the computers doing it. So the next day, Nick is with, and this is my funny part. Nick is with Seth Green. And I wrote, still don't know his name when Alex pops up. Seth apparently didn't play the game because his TV was busted.
Right.
So, yeah, all those people she called, right?
Yeah.
The
night before.
Yeah. All their lines were busy. Now, this is where it gets interesting because now Alex somehow made a list of everyone who was at the arcade.
And got a take-home game.
Yeah. So apparently, she's like Sheldon Cooper. She's got an eidetic memory. She can remember everyone that she saw.
All of them.
Yeah. So anyway, she wrote out she made a list of all of them, called all their numbers, and somehow found out all of their phones are out of order.
Right.
And then we learned Seth is Stilts.
Yep.
So, okay, there we go. And this happened just like in seconds as I was writing. And I'm like, Seth is Stilts.
Oh, Stilts.
Just after I wrote, still don't know his fucking name.
Yeah.
So Nick and Alex go off to check things out, right? And Stilts just needs to stay put.
Well, I want to say, before you go there.
Okay.
All this goes so far beyond just being paranoid. Like, she has actual evidence that weird stuff is happening, and she's presented it to her friends. I mean, in a weirdly kind of obsessive way, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But literal evidence, and they're both, like, gaslighting her.
Yeah.
And there's, like, a fine line. Actually, it's not a fine line. It's a pretty easy to spot line. It's a big, thick line between writing, like, creepy stuff that can be passed off as, like, paranoid behavior.
Right.
And actual just outright villainy going on.
Yeah.
And you have to like...
Here's some more of that.
Okay. Yes.
So Lori's house.
Lori.
They find her sitting on the floor, staring at static on the TV. So Lori's one of their friends, right, in the group. And of course, this is it. They knock on the door. Nobody's there. They go around back and they just decide to fucking break in.
Right.
Because they see her sitting on the floor through the window.
And she won't answer them.
Right. So long and short.
Break an actual window.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex does.
Yeah.
She's like, and Nick's like, what are you doing? And she's gone. Off. It's done. So we see Laura has completely gone nuts.
Yeah.
And then we see a staticky, because the game is not on the TV. That's what I understand. She's not wearing the goggles. The game isn't on the TV. It's just static.
Right.
Right. But then we see a staticky face of Greg saying, don't leave me here. And then the game threatens to come to Alex's world. And when we say that, the game has one of those voices, very heavily mechanized. I'm going to,
yeah.
But imagine that through like a voice distorter. Anyway, so the game threatens to come to Alex's world, and then all of a sudden Lori's dead. She just hits, and then now all of a sudden it's dark, and then we have this whole poltergeist kind of shit going on in the house. Nick breaks the TV, and it all stops. Right.
Right.
And I'm just like, what? And then, Lori's not dead.
But then she's dead.
Yeah. And then she's possessed by Arcade, says some random shit. And then now she's dead.
And then they look away and then she's gone.
Yeah. Nick gets Alex to bolt out of there. He's like, she's dead. Someone's going to hear all this. They're going to call the police. We just broke in. Here we are with a dead body. We got to go. And I'm thinking, okay, so far out of all of the demerits that this movie has earned up to this point, a sign of hope, a character that had a cogent thought, adapted to the situation, understood it for what it was, and took not just like a decent reaction, the only fucking logical reaction.
Yeah.
I'm just going to spoil it for you folks. That was it.
Well, yeah.
After this pimple pop, there was nothing else.
Yeah. So our cogent, intelligent character, immediately after this, they go back to the car. Alex is like, we should talk to the game company. And Nick says, well, in order to do that, we'll have to play the game. Oh. And I was like, what?
Well, he puts it to her, we're going to have to actually play the game, right? Like not just saying it and she didn't hear it. He addressed her. She met his gaze, acknowledged it, and what?
And it was like, I know. What? That's not how, you don't have to play the game to talk to the company that made the game. Okay.
I'm going to speak as an intelligent person. Because I am an intelligent person.
I know.
I couldn't for the life of me figure out any fucking scenario even more fantastic than the shit we've been looking at where you would have to play that game. And
nope.
where they would come to that conclusion.
No idea.
At this point.
Right?
And he just, before we go on, correct me if I'm wrong, just the night before, he told Alex she was fucking mental.
Mm-hmm.
None of this what you're talking about is real. You know, it's a faulty this, it's a faulty capacitor, it's a, you know, relay switch that doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden he's like, we got to play the game. Now, granted, he saw some really deep shit, right? But making that conclusion that you need to play the game after seeing what it did?
Wild.
Yeah.
So they get to the game company and there's a desk guy who's like, you need an appointment. As you know, that guy. You need an appointment.
Yep. I called him desk guy. Oh, nope. I called him door dude.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
So Nick threatens him by saying, we're going to tell everyone that your games make us Satanists or something.
Oh, don't sell it so short. How does he threaten him?
I can't remember exactly, but it's pretty fun.
We just watched this.
I know.
He reaches over. So Ralphie, a slightly taller Ralphie, reaches over a desk, grabs door dude by the collar, because the guy's wearing a shirt, you know, suit, shirt, tie, and everything, and starts shaking him in his chair, threatening his very life. And door dude just sits there and takes it.
He absolutely does, yes.
Takes it. Ralphie, Nick, is like a full 1.5 feet shorter than this dude. Because when they stand up, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And Peter Billingsley did not buff out, folks.
No.
I mean, he grew up. He's a teenager. But it's not like he was hulking.
No, he's kind of just soft looking.
Yeah, he's average looking.
Yeah.
Just an average person. And the fact that he all of a sudden went tough guy when he's supposed to be this mild, meek, it just totally was like, I'm uncomfortable with this because it's stupid.
He's like, you really wouldn't want us to go back to the mall and spread rumors in the food court that your games make us, you know, like worship Satan. And
I know. And it's funny. I didn't make any notes on this, but I remembered thinking, oh my God, people aren't going to understand that this was the precursor to social media shaming.
Yeah.
To do that.
It absolutely was.
To do that in the old days, this is what it was. You had to put in the fucking legwork. you had to go to places, spend hours, risk getting booted out, and keep going back. Where today, it takes you 5-10 seconds, and in under a minute, you can have it in 1,000 different places.
Right.
You know?
It was like the game of whispers, you know? Oh, did you hear what Lori did?
I know. Oh, man.
So the desk guy then calls his boss, whose name is like Difford, which is the dumbest name I've ever heard anyone have in a movie.
That's why I just kept calling him Game Guy.
I call him Difford because it's so dumb. So Difford goes out to meet the kids and they tell him the game's hurting people. And then instead of actually talking to him about the problems, Nick is like, do you have tricks to go through the levels? Can you give us a cheat sheet for this game? And I was like, what? So Difford then brings them to meet the programmer, Albert.
Yep, good old Albert.
Yeah. So Albert talks to them for a little while.
And upon first introduction, looks batshit crazy.
Yes.
Right?
He's wild. So he talks to them a lot about doorways that are in the game and that there are like keys together. And then he just like spouts a lot of gibberish that makes it clear that whoever wrote this knows nothing about games. And then he tells them not to play the game. And then he gives them a rolled up piece of paper that is schematics to the game, but looks like bar charts. And my summation of this scene is that it's outrageous. I literally wrote this sentence. This was an outrageously pointless scene.
Yeah. So can I expand on this a little bit?
Yes.
All right. So the first point he did pick up what looked like a hand-drawn map. Right. Or, well, drawn on like a CAD program.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't make any sense because it's not what we saw.
Right.
And then that vanished. Like at some point, someone yelled cut. And then in between, the director was like, now that I look at this, I don't want to see this ever again. Get off
this. It's dumb.
So,
You're right, Bob.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
So the rolled up paper they have is thermal paper. So it would either come from a thermal printer, or a fax machine. So here, and you were right. Here's what's on it. It's just bars.
I know.
Like you're looking at a bar chart with no labels. Only on one in the middle of it, there's like a list of stuff that has nothing to do with the data. So I'm looking at it thinking, so according to your game, Albert, your blood pressure is a little high, or your heart rate is exceedingly erratic, or Albert, the company's finances are looking a little rough. Here, take a look at this. This is why you must leave now. Jesus Christ. So what this irked me, and we're going to get more into this. What irked me about it is giant capital letters right here in my notes. Lesson. Know the fucking subject matter of your film, or don't do it at all, because you will look like an idiot. And we've talked about the people who have, and these people did. These writers knew nothing. This reminded me of all the shows in the 90s where they would be like computer, hackers and all these fucking experts that comes up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's HTML. That's not even real code. They couldn't even like fucking use Java, right? Which is, infinitely easier to pound out for a look as someone's coding than, trying to do it in C or whatever that other people will be like, it's just nonsense. God damn it.
I know.
Yeah, it was just the worst.
Yes.
There will be more on this.
Yes.
There will be a reckoning. Okay. Am I taking over?
Yes.
Where are we?
So they leave.
They leave.
They get in the car.
God damn it. Yeah, you would leave me this part.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Folks, if you haven't figured it out by now, we don't care for this movie. It blows. And we're going to talk about that. But first, let's finish the journey, shall we?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
All right. So they go back to Dante's Inferno. I'm so tired.
It's okay.
Reading this. Nick gets in the game first. Starts pushing some buttons. Nothing happens. And right away, I'm like, put a fucking quarter in it. And then they actually have a conversation where and this is like a minute and a half. All of a sudden, Alex like, you gotta put a quarter in it. He's like, no, we don't. It wants us to play. Why should we put money in? Guess what? They put a quarter in it.
She's like, he needs us to play by his rules.
Yeah, I remember you actually looked at me on the couch and said, what the fuck? So then Alex says to play 2 players. I'm like, what? How? There's only one set of fucking goggles, or periscope thingy, rather.
Uh-huh.
I typed goggles, but then, or it's actually
it doesn't look like a 2-player booth, my friend.
There's not 2 sets of gloves. There's nothing. The bench is big enough to, someone squeeze their skinny ass in there next to the guy playing.
Yeah.
But how's that a fucking 2-player game? And this is what chapped my ass the most, right? They start playing, and then we see like both of them, like their whole heads are in this periscope eyepiece.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. I was just like, oh fuck, here we go.
Oh, can you also, I just want to say, just before they play the game, Nick confesses his feelings for Alex.
Yeah. Oh, can I jump even back a little further?
Yes.
Albert does share with them that they used brain cells in the game.
Yep.
I don't even know how that works.
No.
Not one bit.
This movie was just an attempt to cash grab on the popularity of video games in the early 90s by people who knew nothing about them.
Well, it was, and it was a cash grab on all of the tech movies that were legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was almost like a fucking asylum venture, but it wasn't.
Somehow.
God.
And there wasn't nearly enough Seth Green in it.
No. So much more Seth would have been better.
Yeah.
So anyway, my notes get kind of sketchy here because I kept tuning out because I didn't understand it. Arcade is going on about how parents are ruining kids. His mom made him a monster and he's in a machine, and
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Yeah, so all I could get to do is get my brain together to write this sentence. If it hasn't been guessed, the writing is so very bad.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the conclusion. Alex's virtual self has the game instructions written on her arm.
In
So
the
even
virtual world,
even though she's not plugged into anything,
Nick's
right?
like, oh no, the schematics.
Yeah, we see them in the game.
Yeah.
In their little weird, what it looked like was like ninja sperm helmets.
Yes.
Right? These black helmets that are long in the back, and this first thing,
black bodysuits.
And I thought, like, ninja sperm.
Yes. Ninja sperm.
But yeah, they're written on her arm in this virtual. Jesus Christ. So then we have like 20 minutes of nonsense. This is where I just about checked out. So the highlights of this in the end, Alex is in the game physically, and because she's not in the booth, Albert shows up at the arcade and mystically pulls Nick out
somehow.
And then we see their dead friends are now characters in there. There's just a whole bunch of nonsense that isn't worth detailing, and that's exactly what I wrote. And then all of a sudden, after all these terrible graphics, which, granted, 1993, we weren't in super stellar graphics, but I still feel like this was I think you could have done better, and I know there was better.
Well, there's no sense of tension or like danger or rushing or even trying or in the game
or cohesiveness
from
one shot to the next.
There's even straight up like ripping off other movies that use that, like that oldest riddle in the book, like one of us tells the truth and the other always lies.
Yeah.
And it's not even solved correctly.
No. And then at one point a fucking kid shows up.
Give me a break.
Right? A kid.
Right?
In a black ninja sperm outfit. So he's supposed to be playing the game from somewhere. Yes. I don't know. And he's like, I'm afraid. Like, what? Jesus Christ, whatever. And then where are we? Oh my God, this is, a kid shows up. And then later we find out the kid is actually Arcade in disguise. Then we get a dream sequence of Alex, and she's waking up like she did at the beginning of the movie. She goes downstairs as her mother, but she's alive. And then mom blows her brains out. And then dead mom talks to Alex saying that she's going to help her, and then blows Alex's brains out. And of course, it's supposed to be all just Arcade fucking with her. She shoots Alex in the head. And then we get this like thing out of nowhere. Free life.
Right. That she got when she rescued the kid that was Arcade. It's
so anyway, dumb. With that, Arcade is talking to dead Alex, saying she failed everyone, the game is over, cackling, and they can play again and again now. And then all of a sudden, bam, there's Alex in black ninja sperm and holding this free life. It's supposed to be his heart or some
I guess
thing.
I don't know.
And she kills Arcade. Everyone's released. It's a happy ending. Oh, nope. At the end, Arcade made it out as well as the little boy.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's magically back in the world. Everyone's just fine. And then, and
they all fucking go home like, that was an awesome basketball game.
Right. And then, the kid who was Arcade is behind her when she gets home. And you and I were both like, does this movie really feel like it deserved a sequel?
Oh, yeah, I know. To set it up like that, I loved it. This one shouldn't even have been out.
Yeah.
So it goes without saying, folks, we didn't care for this movie.
Not great.
It was bad.
Yep.
Just bad.
Real bad.
And one of those, again, that's bad in a way that you can't really laugh at it other than like that sad laugh, Yeah. Like you, when things go on, you're like, well, you can't be that upset. You're laughing. As if every time you forget that I do laugh when I'm upset. and for other negative reasons. And that's the only kind of laugh you can get out of this. And for us, I think some of that laugh had to do with the fact that we got to finish this fucking thing. Now, at least this wasn't as boring as This World Won't Break.
That's true. We made it through the movie, the whole thing.
There was at least enough visual something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Even though it sucked, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to take a negative and turn it into a positive, and we're going to talk about things that you need to do or not do.
Yeah.
To make your creative efforts successful.
I got one.
Bring it on.
Okay.
Because mine's going to last a while.
I know. That's why I wanted to squeeze one in.
Do it.
Real quick. And it's not yours, because I know exactly what yours is.
Yep.
Okay, so one thing that this movie did was it introduced a lot of superfluous bullshit that was not pertinent to the story at all.
Right.
Like a lot of backstory stuff and a lot of like exposition-y stuff and just a lot of nonsense that was like, this is what they do in movies, but they didn't actually do anything with it. It was almost as if the people didn't know how to structure a movie.
Or a story.
Yeah.
Well, good example, the mother.
Uh-huh.
The fact that her mother committed suicide had no bearing on the story whatsoever.
Absolutely none.
Other than to serve as that dream sequence scene, which could have been anything else.
Literally anything else.
Because the death, the experience, the emotion that was supposed to be, none of that had anything to do with anything.
No.
And it even made that dream sequence fall short.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is so underwhelming at the beginning. Now that they're replaying it, come on.
Right?
Oh, God. Should I get into mine?
Yes.
Quick. I can make it quicker. I've said this before, and I started this rant with Velocipaster.
Yes, I know.
Fucking.
And this is a rant that goes on for you for days.
Well, and apparently it needs, because
it has to.
Well, this is 1993, this movie, and it's 2021 now, right? And people are still doing this shit. So it needs to be said. Know what you're fucking talking about when you're writing a script. If you don't know the subject matter, you don't know the history or whatever, don't do it. Because you will come across as an idiot. And there's no other way to put it. And it might be harsh and whatever, but you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup. Do the research. Or find something else that you do know about. And that's what the number one thing for writing is. Write what you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it doesn't mean, we've talked about it, taking chances, branching out, but do the research.
Yes.
We do incredible amounts of research.
Yeah, we're doing an incredible amount of research at this moment.
Yep. Still working on that secret script project and tons of research, and there's going to be a lot more.
Yes.
To do. So, we want to we want this to be a good script, a good feature. It doesn't mean take your time writing it. It means take your time prepping.
Yeah.
So you just sit down, fire up anything, a document, a script writing program, whatever, and just start vomiting shit out. It's not worth anyone's time.
Well, writing any story, any movie, any novel, anything is,
Exactly.
Except maybe poetry, I guess, but is 90% prep time.
No, I know 2 published poets who are very good.
I'm not saying poets don't do prep.
No. Well, that's just it. But see, it's a different process, but it's kind of both. You're right and you're wrong in the one statement. Like Carlos Kumpian is a wonderful poet, and he is just a great guy. Poets have all these thoughts, right? And they're not formulating a story. He's formulating the experience.
Right.
He's like, oh, I have this experience, and I have these thoughts about it. How can I put that in an eloquent, poetic format?
Sure.
And it's not like he spends months and months on a poem, because if you do, maybe poetry's not your bag.
Maybe.
Right? But he does spend time before he starts writing anything down. He spends meditation time. He spends some quiet time. He immerses himself in that moment, because as a poet, he wants to capture the emotion of what inspired him to even put it out in words.
Right.
Right. And then it's finding those words to capture that in a very fluid, artistic expressionist form.
Right.
Right. So they do, have their thing, but everybody else.
But it's 90% prep.
Yeah. Well, here's a good example. What I'm doing right now.
Yes.
So I've been asked to write a small, like one-shot sandbox D&D adventure for someone who wants to release it with a game accessory,
Mhm.
right? Uh, I have the idea, and I could just like write out a module, write a map in room 1, room 2, room 3, whatever. But I am percolating, right? I'm getting the fine details. And writing for a game is a little bit different than writing a novel or a script,
Yeah.
but I'm taking time to put it together
Mhm.
instead of just jumping at it. Even something little like that requires some prep.
Yeah.
And whether you outline it physically or mentally, if you use cards, post-its, something in your software, they call them beat sheets, beat boards,
Right.
everything. Yeah, something you got to do. But in doing that, part of it should also be making notes of the things you learned about this thing and how it's important and relevant and how you can incorporate it instead of going to get a Computers for Dummies book and pulling random words out of it.
That's bananas.
Yeah, the terminology they used didn't even fit the situation, and I know everyone likes to say, well, but the general audience doesn't know this. You'd be surprised. Because your general audience who's going to go see a computer-based horror movie is going to be computer geeks.
Well, that's just the thing. So this movie is about video games.
Yep.
And it seems like the people who wrote it didn't know anything about video games. But the people who go to watch it, guess what? They play video games. So they know a lot about video games.
Yep. I mean, that's exactly it. The writers had no concept of this culture.
Nope.
Because these were supposed to be like, video arcade kids. Now, this is 1993. I was an adult and, doing a lot of, normal adult things. But when arcades first came out, all through the early 80s, that was my jam. And it was a culture. We didn't all hang out together.
Right.
But we were the same kind of people. We were nerds and geeks, right? You didn't see the popular kids in there hanging out.
No, and
right?
certainly no bullies in an arcade. I mean, I'm not saying there weren't like
not like
kids,
what was
but
in
not
here.
like that guy.
Right. Yeah. The only bully concept that actually would come into play would be they were at malls. Arcades were at malls,
Yeah.
right? Because the concept of a freestanding arcade out somewhere didn't cross anybody's mind because most of them failed anyway when it did happen. But like, hey, these video games, you think, what if we stuck some in a mall where there's tons of people anyway, and parents would love to drop their kids off here so they can shop and not listen to, I'm hungry. Can we done? Can we go home? And that was the birth of the whole arcade business.
I really miss just like hanging out at the mall with my friends, which was something I did a lot as a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, the mall was my mecca.
Yeah.
At the game store or the hobby store that had D&D stuff, had the video arcade, had Radio Shack.
And you have a friend who works at like the cookie shop in the mall.
Yes. Yeah. Got to have those connections.
Yeah.
New York Steakhouse was at Westtown Mall at one time. That was like a slightly higher class Ponderosa.
Sure.
You could still go in there and like order a Coke and you get free refills. You don't have to buy food. I'd sit there for hours just refilling my soda, chilling, mostly because the money I spent on the soda was all the money I had left after going to the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like going home right then. Anyway, backing this up, you got to know what's going on. This movie, watch it and see how dumb it is.
God.
And think to yourself, is this how I want my name remembered for writing a script?
I know.
And I hope the answer is no. Right? Because, whoa, man. There's just so much more to it. The other thing they don't quite understand, well, all the stuff that you said that they threw in.
Yeah.
If you're going to rip off something to gives like some credit to your shit script, rip it off correctly.
Right.
I'm just going to say that, you know,
Right.
I don't want anybody ripping anyone else's stuff off, but, and they're not really ripping it off. They're pulling it from mythology.
Sure.
But there again, make sure you read it and understand it before you use it.
Yeah.
Right. That would be like in the middle of Pride and Prejudice. Mr. Darcy goes into this like fucking Plato rant. Right?
Yeah.
Does that have, could that conceivably have any hook into any part of that film?
It's just wild.
Right.
This movie.
But they have him do it so he can sound smart.
Right.
Shit.
Oh boy.
Oh man. God.
I don't even want to
game
touch
thing.
the graphics, honestly. Like their CG.
They're not going to match today.
No. But
I know in 93 they were way better available graphics. But because this was a B movie, you know, the budget likely wasn't there. I'm going to go ahead and say, I hope everyone listening and share this with the world, you know, folks, over different conversations and maybe, you know, tweets and whatever. Don't write any more movies about video games or computer games.
If you don't know about them.
I mean at all.
Why?
I think we're good.
Oh.
I think
we've capped out our capacity.
Yep. I think every couple of years is like a generation.
Okay.
In film years. Yeah. So we've been through generations and generations of these, from war games, which gave us the very first like full dive into a computer geek, and it had nothing to do with graphics.
Right.
And then we got into just a bunch of stuff. God, what was it? I can't remember the name of the movie with Julie Christie. The Unborn or something, where a computer actually impregnates her and then takes the baby out, and it's born in this like metal shell that comes apart in pieces. It looks like a metal baby, like a computer baby.
Yeah.
But it's an actual baby. It's fucking stupid.
How about the Doom movies?
Okay, making movies based off of video games could probably come to an end too. But what? I'm just saying, I'm tired of these.
You're not excited for the new Mario Brothers movie?
I didn't even know there was one.
There is one.
I am going to forget that as soon as we're done here, because I'm block all that shit out.
Chris Pratt's voicing Mario.
Stop it.
Charlie Day's voicing Luigi.
Stop it. Oh my God. So anyway, I think we can do better. I think we need to stay out of the computer world. We need to stop having AIs taken over. I mean, everything all the way up to Her, The Circle. Okay, we get it, right? The evil computer companies and the computers that take over the world. You know, how many more Terminators are there going to be? Probably tons. They're going to keep going, Skynet. I think we could work on taking a different slant to it. I think we just need to stop for a while. We need to stop and reset and quit diving into this. And, oh God, I can already hear the fucking voices. Well, you make a script and it's what the market wants and this and that. No. We, as creatives, as filmmakers and writers, we shape the market.
We need a cleanse, y'all.
Right? Well, we do. So, and by saying we shape the market, so you and I sit down, we write a script, bam, someone buys it. We get that like $2 million payday that everyone fantasizes about. It goes to an A movie house, A-list director, A-list stars, everything. Bam, gets an Oscar. Right?
Yeah.
Now, the audience doesn't fucking care if they see a movie like that ever again. That is a hard and cold fact. When we go to movies, we enjoy that movie, and the first thing we think of when we walk out of a theater is not, God, I hope they come out with like 10 more just like this. Right? I'm not talking sequels, just random fucking movies. No. The studios see that this bad boy made money, won an award, so right away they start filling the marketplace with stories like this, hiring people to write them, or snatching up stories that have already been written that are similar. They start filming them and getting them out there. And then people have the balls to tell people like us, oh, well, the market is swinging this way.
Yeah.
No, God damn it. The market will swing whatever way we can shape it to.
Yeah.
And yeah, the money holders are the decision makers, but still, let's stop, because this was such a shit experience. It just brought it all. It's like PTSD. It brought it all back. The Unborn, War Games was fun and good. That was a different kind of thing. But, then like the Lawnmower Man, supposed to be about Stephen King's story, The Lawnmower Man. It wasn't, had nothing to do with it. They just took the name, said story, based on the story by Stephen King, which it wasn't, because The Lawnmower Man's about a fat dude who shows up and eats your grass and his belly grows. And he says, hail to some goat god, and then leaves. It's a short story. Lawnmower Man, the movie, has Pierce Brosnan, has this super mentally deficient lawnmower boy, Jeff Fahey, and he does some experiments, and it takes him down to his basement with his supercomputer consoles and stuff, and then makes the Lawnmower Man super smart. And then the Lawnmower Man actually stops being a physical entity and figures out how to absorb himself into the computer, and then starts running around the planet from computer to computer. So how does that have anything to do with a fat man eating grass?
Right. There was one in the early 2000s, I think, where like Gerard Butler was a prisoner, and there was like a rich kid who was controlling his movements in some video game.
Yes, that was some sort of new sport thing. Yeah. There's Swordfish with Hugh Jackman. Right? A hacker film.
Yeah.
So between video games and computers, which one's the same as the next, these consoles now are full-blown computers to run these games, whereas compared to the Atari 2600 was basically just a processor to send blocky color signals to a screen.
Yes.
And do basic instructions without any kind of further stuff. Anyway. I'll just stop there. Please stop doing it, people, please. And you know what? We're guilty of it, because we will, not mention names, but we were working on some short film ideas, and one came up, which pretty much was like Her, the movie Her.
Yeah,
right?
It was. Yeah,
and
they tried to sell us on it real hard.
Well, they did, and gave us the script, and we tried to rewrite it to make it like not. And we're like, well, the only way to make it not is just not do it. Because when you make it not like the movie Her, then this has nothing.
Yeah.
You boil it down. What have you got? I have a character who's a man.
And this wasn't even before the movie Her came out. It was afterwards. And we read it and we were like, this is just a really, really bad knockoff of Her.
We are all influenced by everything that we see every minute of the day. That's a fact. And I've talked about it, many times on here. We both have. But it's not being influenced by when it's like a condensed version of what you saw in the theater and you turn it into a 12-page script.
Oh, no, it was like Her, except that she was his mom. It was dumb.
Yeah. Anyway. You can take the floor. I've done my rant.
That's fine. Okay. Here's another lesson. This is not going to help anyone creatively. What I learned from this movie is that Seth Green has looked like he's 16. He's been 16 since 1993.
Okay. Can I come in on this?
Uh-huh.
Fucking Seth Green.
I love him so much.
He is like the Dick Clark of a new generation. I mean, we've seen him talk about Robot Chicken and the stuff he's doing now. And other than that weird ass early 90s haircut.
Oh, man.
Which I wasn't fully.
That like bowl mop top.
I know. That was in like all the movies. And
Love
maybe
it.
I just live in the wrong part of the country, but I don't remember seeing that shit anywhere.
They really tried to make it a thing.
Oh, man. But anyway, Seth Green, God, we love him. But if that fucker doesn't start showing gray hair and wrinkles pretty soon,
right?
I'm going to like go to Homeland Security and like, we got an alien among us.
Is he ever going to age?
Right? This guy, I don't know what genes he was gifted with, but my graying, balding ass is wondering what is up with him.
20 years later and he still looks, no, wait, it's 30 years later.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 28 years.
Almost 30 years later, and he still looks like he's 16.
He is astounding.
Yeah. Super funny, incredibly talented. Love him so much. Pretty sure he's a vampire.
Well, yeah. Well, Seth Green is a good example for actors and everything, not on how, how you look. The fact that, the only thing we can say about Seth Green to rip on him is jokingly about his age.
He doesn't age.
But all the stuff he's in, from this to all the goofy ass movies he made.
I remember, yes.
Where they're chasing Sasquatch, they find a pot field in another movie, Up the Creek.
Yeah.
Without
a Paddle?
Without a Paddle.
That was a fun one.
On all the stuff he's done, and he's played the disaffected, weird outside friend. He's just so good at what he does, right? And his creativity with Robot Chicken, and he's got like all these adventures. Seth Green is a perfect person to look at and get some inspiration.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And then
a lot of this stuff, all of this stuff, he's driven himself.
Yes. That's the thing.
Nobody handed Seth Green anything on a platter. He just went ahead and did it.
And he built an empire.
Yeah.
His own little Seth empire. And you have to admire that. So that is a positive to take away from this, right? Peter Billingsley, I don't recall seeing him in anything after this.
He's been in stuff, but
he's off of my radar. And here's the sad thing. This is not the kind of movie where you can adequately judge anybody's acting capabilities.
No.
Right? Because there are some people in here who are still working today.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, both of the female actors in here have children who are acting.
Yeah, I actually think that a lot of the actors in here, did about the best they could with what they were given.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and I use, for example, Sean Connery. Now, yes, he's a masochistic, macho, just horrible,
toxic human being.
Yeah. But his performances are fucking stellar. And if you look at him for like acting skills, I mean, the guy delivered. He brought the tough everything, to it. And yeah, sometimes when you cast a Scotsman in the role of a Russian submarine captain, you might want to, convince them to do an accent instead of their Scottish accent. But anyway, that aside, in fucking Highlander 2, like I said, the first time I saw it, I really didn't even know what the movie was about, because my brain was so consumed with, why the fuck is he in this? How did they get him to do this? And when he started, why didn't he leave?
What happened?
You cannot save a shit script, poor concept, bad film with a good actor. You cannot.
No, this is true.
Now, on the other side of that, those things will not destroy a good actor.
This is also true.
Yeah. John Delancey didn't have a lot of breakthrough moments in this.
No.
But, you can see him reading these stupid ass lines, doing a stupid ass thing, but he's still he still rocked a huge ass career and is still doing it.
Yes.
So is Seth. Megan Fuller.
Yeah, Megan Fuller.
Yeah. She has a daughter who's in acting, and Megan's been doing stuff too. So one bad movie's not going to break you. Well, I will say this. It can.
It's not a rule.
Under certain circumstances.
Right.
Right.
But as a rule,
what it's going to do is it's going to end up showing up in a gag reel when you're on a talk show with somebody. And they're going to be like, this movie was great, but by the way, we dug a little and we found this gem. And you're going to be like, God damn it.
Oh, man.
Just laugh at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The story. We've talked about bucking story structure.
Yes.
In writing, on how sometimes you should do it. The story writes itself. You have to have the idea, right? But it will flow. And if it doesn't do act 1, act 2, act 3, that's fine.
Yeah.
because I will argue if you have to have act 1, act 2, act 3, there's tons of movies where act 2 is like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
I mean, all that
So
stuff is really more general guidelines for, like if you need help structuring your story.
right.
But if you are a good writer, like you don't need to know the rules so that you can break them when you need to.
A good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Those are the 3 things you need for a story. Now, we've talked to people who are like, well, where's the second act tension and this and that? Well, that doesn't happen in the second act. And there is no second act. Here's how the story begins. Here's everything, and here's the end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like act 3, you could watch 100 movies, like especially like action movies and stuff with big emotional closing moments. When the fuck does act 3 begin? Some movies, it's like a full 40 minutes of wrapping this shit up. Because we identified the hump.
Right.
And some.
It's like 5 minutes before the end.
Right? Yeah. It's like all of a sudden, kablam.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. If your reaction is like that, then the whole thing didn't work. But there's plenty of movies where that's the case. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I want to see it again.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, the rules are there to help you learn, how certain stories succeed.
Right.
Right. And they're there to help you practice as you hone your craft.
You understand how it works before you take the training wheels off. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
Right. Understand how color mixing works before you start painting. And you're going for a certain look. Well, don't do it on the fly.
Right.
Understand. And then once you understand the basics of it, then you can go like batshit crazy with it and come up with all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Out of the box kind of thing.
You just got to know the theory before you put it into practice.
Yeah.
And let's just say the people who put together this film didn't know the theory.
No, this
or the practice.
This goes solely in the category of cash grab.
Absolutely.
I don't even know the runtime of it in terms of like theater release.
I don't know.
I'm imagining it was 2 weeks or less in all the like B movie theaters, the non-chains.
I mean, if it wasn't,
or like the low performing chain theaters. Yeah. But anyway, the music though. Let's talk about the music.
Okay.
So
I actually liked the music. If I'm honest.
Yeah. Okay, so here's an example. YouTube has a whole library of royalty-free music you can add to your videos. A few people I watch do that. Country House Gent, who does the narrowboat stuff.
Sure.
He just, because he couldn't be out on the boat for various reasons, he did this little camping in a friend's like farm that's like really secluded. And he added music from the library there. They ask that you credit it at the end. That's pretty good. That's a nice thing to have. But if you're making a film, not a YouTube video, if you're making a film, go talk to your indie musicians in your area. They're hopefully listeners as well.
Chances are they're going to be happy to help you out.
Absolutely. And if you go to them and say, I don't have hardly any money, you can either work something out, at least give them the credit so they can go around and say, I'm in a film.
Right.
Right. And if you have a budget, then compensate them.
Please pay your friends.
Yeah, please pay them. Because you're going to find some brilliant music. It's one of those things. Life isn't long enough. There isn't enough time in the day to do everything. I would love to listen to all of these bands that are around because I think half of them we would be like, Jesus, that is good.
Yeah.
But we don't go to bars because we don't drink. We don't go, obviously nothing's really going on anyway, but under normal circumstances, we're not a big crowd people, and anything that ever goes on always has to do with alcohol and bars around Madison.
I mean, we live in Madison, Wisconsin. Everything is just alcohol and bars. Just assume if you want to come live in Madison, Wisconsin, that you're 99% of your entertainment opportunities are going to be alcohol and bars.
Now, where we do get our jam on is the coffee houses.
Oh yeah, we got lots of them
that have live entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now it's not a big thing going on, but we've heard a few bands because we went to go see our friend Alma, and there was always somebody opening for her, and we're like, oh, we buy the CD, right? Because that's really all you can do at the moment, But yeah, there's so much good music out there. And these movies were fantastic for that. That's one of the reasons I enjoyed watching these. Because if it didn't start out with synthesizer
old
music,
Casio.
yep, if the Casio wasn't there, then you knew you were going to hear something.
Yeah.
Right. And I would sit through at the end, listen to the credits. I would run to the local record store and see if they had like pressed a demo or something and
nice
stuff, but as a kid, that's really all you can do.
Yeah.
Back then, especially, I couldn't go to clubs, couldn't do all that. They didn't have coffee shops.
Right.
like today. But I did get exposed to some really, truly beautiful music. And here's the thing. Indie musicians are like indie filmmakers. There's a ton of them, and most of them lead a super short lifespan career-wise. I mean, think about it. Look at Failure Boys Productions. We loved Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
We loved Attack of the Tatty Bogle, right? But
there isn't going to be anything.
They're essentially, they're done. They've been done, and it's just not going to happen. I mean, Pete's doing his own stuff, unrelated, right? And does some commercial stuff. But yeah, those two films are moments in history that are gone. And a lot of these musicians, they do get that CD out. They do get some playtime, other than SoundCloud, right? Yeah. They get a tangible physical form of existence. And that's the only thing you'll ever see from them.
Right.
And that's a shame, because what else could there have been? But because of that, how many do you not catch?
Yeah.
Anyway, really directors, producers, look for these local people. I mean, even if you got like a high budget and you're doing a high end B film, you get to that stage.
Right.
Reach out for people who are not on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because they're so good. They have the passion, the music, and the music in here was actually really good.
Right. Or find someone who knows how to find that kind of music.
Exactly.
Like there are people whose whole job it is to find music.
Especially like TV shows.
Yes.
That's how we get it. Because we're like, we find some bands and we would look them up. They're not even like in the indie category. They're in like super sub, they're like 5 levels down in the top 500 kind of listing.
I know.
At $4.99. And you look at it and you're like, how did someone find this?
It's really good.
Yeah. So then we'll get the whole album. Yeah. And then sometimes we'll get, if they have more than 1, 2.
We have done that, yes.
Yeah. So be music centric in your stuff. Music is what makes or breaks a movie. You can have the best actors. Dialogue.
It really is. It's very lifeblood of the movie.
It is. And it's not just because we're super music oriented.
Yeah. And it's also not because the music was really the only redeemable thing about this movie.
Right.
But it was.
Though. But I wouldn't watch this movie again just for the music.
No.
There's actually not a lot of it.
No, there's like 3 songs.
Yeah. And then at the end.
Yeah.
I think it kicks in during the credits. I think it was one of the repeats from the first 2. But anyway.
Anywho.
Yeah. So this is a movie chock full of lessons on what not to do. And by virtue of doing the opposite, what to do.
Yeah.
Because then you can see how it looks.
Yeah. Just if you do want to watch it, which we don't highly recommend, it is on Tubi.
Well, I recommend watching it. It's going to suck, right? But you're not watching it taking notes, folks. You're watching it, grab your popcorn, your candy, your sodas, your water, your tea, whatever. Kick back, especially with somebody, and know that you're going into this to poke fun at it.
Right.
And then also it will be an all right
to
experience.
Collect legal evidence that Seth Green is a vampire.
Yes. Please, if nothing else, please watch this to bear witness that Seth Green doesn't age.
Mm-hmm.
Be witnesses. Stand up. Seth, we need to get his secrets.
We love you, Seth.
He is awesome. Oh, God. I'd love to have him on here and then just nail him with it.
Yeah.
I
would love to talk to Seth Green just in general.
Oh, in general. But I would just like to ask him point blank. So what's the deal? Do you like rub whale placenta on your face? I mean, how, man? How? Because Dick Clark was an anomaly, but to have it happen twice in somebody's lifetime, I think that's unnatural.
It's bananas.
Anyway.
So with that.
Go
check out our website.
www.lordsofmisroleproductions.com.
It's all on there. The merch store, the links, the episodes, the blog, the everything.
And the new page for BF McGillicuddy.
Yep.
Apologies, folks, because we had such a hell week last week, and we're still we're midway through the week already because we're recording late again. It's just been fucking miserable. So BF will be doing weekly videos by the time this comes out. And if not, then you'll know because I'll be screaming and people in the Himalayas will be asking each other, what in the hell is that coming through the air?
Yeah.
Well, it's Jim and he's raging. So BF McGillicuddy is supposed to be every week, not on a certain day. Because, some
when we get to
things are going to take a little longer to edit than others, and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's going on. All of our social media links, Patreon.
Reach out to us. Email address.
Yeah, we got 2 email addresses on there. See what's happening. Our blog.
Mention that.
All the stuff.
Wow. After
you visit there, check us out on social media. Check out the people we're following and are following us.
They're cool.
That's the key, right? Everybody, almost everybody is another creative of some form.
Yeah.
We actually have picked up like 7 or 8 just in the last couple of days, musicians.
Cool.
From here in the States, Canada, and the UK.
Cool.
Which is weird because we're not a music-centric podcast, but I'm for it because we're creatives.
Yeah.
Right? We're
absolutely.
all creatives. Doesn't matter. And maybe they just enjoy it.
I don't know.
But, if you're a musician, we'll have you on.
For real.
Yeah. If you're like, hey, man, I had this song that someone put in a movie. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the process. Let's talk about what you do. Let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
or if you're someone who scored a movie.
Yeah. Scored a movie. Anything having to do with the ie. I guess that's the thing. If we were a music podcast.
I mean, this is a podcast about movies.
It's movie centric. Yeah. It's Brower for the B-side, B movies, indie films, and what they have to offer.
It'd be tough to talk about baking on here.
It really would. Speaking of baking, the Great British Baking Show. The Great British Baking Show is back for season 9, folks.
The show that just soothes my soul.
God, this is the show that everybody. It's funny. I saw an article. They're saying nobody's watching it in London or England. Rather.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? This is one of the most purest shows out there.
Yeah, it's still, even without Mary Berry, like I like Prue.
I like Prue, but just the whole thing, the people involved and Noel and Matt and everything is just so fantastic.
It's lovely.
We nailed it, but it's chaotic and loud and crazy. This is such a soothing, wonderful, beautifully happy show. It moves at a nice slow pace, an hour every week.
It's perfect reality TV. You should watch it.
The contestants are just beautiful people.
Lovely.
Right? They're not trying to stab one another.
I want to be friends with all of them.
Oh, me too. So anyway, those are things that are going on. So check out our website, check out some people, reach out to your creatives, reach out to creatives around you. This is your tribe. Don't be bashful. Right? Think of all of us as like long lost relatives to one another.
Yeah.
Let's just connect and go.
We don't bite.
No.
Hard.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Well, B-siders.
Until next week.
Time. I was trying to say the same thing as you at the same time. Let's try it again.
Until
next week. This is Danny.
This is Jim.
Bye.
Bye.